we really wanna promote transparency. No? And transparency hopefully will breed support in turn. We will discuss within the party, and perhaps the party can spearhead it. One of the principal authors in the House is Erin Tañade. I'm sure he'll be filing. And dito si Kiko, I imagine, will also be a firm advocate of it.
Having come from a regime that was really basically one big crime syndicate, and it pervaded across the bureaucracy, the culture of secrecy and cover-ups. So we need to reverse that, and this bill will primarily address that issue.
Transparency is one of the President's key platforms. It has always been one of his key advocacies. It is a concept and a practice that is being systematically applied throughout the government.
He did promise us that he will push for the FOI and make it a priority bill when he becomes president. He promised this when he was already elected. He already won, but he wasn't declared, or he wasn't sworn in yet. In the interim between winning in the May 10 election and taking his oath as president and addressing the State of the Nation on his first State of the Nation, the FOI got lost. In fact, it was not even mentioned in his State of the Nation address. And we were like, why?
What we thought was a solid and decisive support on the part of the incoming administration at the time of President Aquino is now turning out to be as much a difficult process as it had been before. The Aquino administration has raised a number of concerns that we thought have already been resolved in the past.
Well, there are certain concerns that, for example, you just have to make sure that the concerns, for example, of the national intelligence community or the national security agency are taken into account. I think this has been successful. There were other concerns that the president had, for example, and you can find this in his public statements, where he felt, for example, that one thing that should be taken into account by the law is that a president should have the freest possible debate and discussions in the formulation of policy. So that, for example, if people felt that prematurely, or just when you're exploring ideas and options, that these might be prematurely disclosed, it might have the unfortunate tendency to get people to shut up and not give their free and frank opinion. So he wanted just a reassurance that this had been taken into consideration.
I think the proposed FOI is more encompassing, and that's the reason why there is some delay insofar as the full passage of the bill is concerned. Now, for instance, budgets, procurement, finances are not internal or national security issues. The public has the right to know as to how taxes are being spent. So my sense is that all national government agencies, not only LGUs, if required to fully disclose how government money is being spent, in fact, it should be offered. There is, I don't think they should be compelled to do it. As we have maintained, this administration should be a model of transparency and accountability. And there is no need for prodding for the heads of agencies to do disclosure on finance.
You can go to the Department of Budget and Management, where for the first time, instead of just a summary, all of the entire, those huge, gigantic volumes of the national budget are being put up online. The Department of the Interior and Local Governments has been quite early on putting its biddings and awards and contracts also online. Well, no, transparency doesn't even require an FOI bill, for example, right? The President has also answered this, that generally are you open and willing to accommodate the questions that are brought by reporters or researchers? Are you more forthcoming with your budget data Are you more liberal in terms of what are the sort of non-controversial items that can be immediately put online? And that's why you're looking at, for example, the official Gazette online. You're looking at the Department of Budget and Management.
There are a number of substantive and procedural gaps that can only be addressed by legislation. One procedural gap is the absence of a uniform procedure for accessing information, so that you request for information and this is handled differently across government agencies.
The difference is we're going to institutionalize transparency, because if we were a developed country, then you don't need this actually. It would follow. But we are a developing country, we're strengthening our institutions, so we need laws like this to guide, or at least give it some teeth, so that everybody will toe the line.
At the same time, we were also looking at different models around the world, and the President has mentioned this, the presidential spokesman has mentioned this. You have, for example, some interesting ideas that the Canadian model puts forward, an information commission, for example. You want sort of an objective referee that can be the one that people go to in case there are any disputes or questions on whether information should be disclosed. You need an assurance that the data privacy of individuals is protected and recognized. You also need, for example, a reassurance on the part of government officials that they know clearly what are the procedures to be followed, and that would involve on the other hand, perhaps updating our system of classifying documents.
You know, it should be prioritized, and I think that this administration is prioritizing it. We just need to fine-tune it so that once we say that's it or it's it, then we're ready. But there is a directive coming from the President. You know, this disclosure arrangements that we did for DILG and the LGUs, this is something supported by the President.
The President is very sensitive to public opinion, especially media opinion. If you're going to pressure him into passing this bill, then it would be passed within the 15th Congress.
There are just a few concerns that were, I think, legitimately raised by the President and handled by the Cabinet. And again, it should not be the case of Malacanang dictating this on a very committed coalition. Therefore, there is the need to talk to the proponents, to explain our side. Perhaps there may be assurances that can be given that it turns out is not necessary because everyone is on the same page. That's why we want to have a...
You know the kind of governance culture that we would like to promote is a process wherein the governors engage with the governed. And the only way to do that, as I've said, is if the governed are informed. So this will be an informed engagement. And the other dimensions I've said is trust. When people do not trust their governors, no matter how good they are, no matter how well-intentioned they are, this will not work.
All in all, it was expected, but it was also hugely disappointing. It was heartbreaking, in fact. But hey, we're still here, we're still doing the fight, we're continuing with the fight, and we know we're going to win because it's a good fight.